this evening, but QIC welcomes you and Debate House welcomes you. Um, this is the maiden event for Debate House, so feel free to leave and give suggestions to Debate House um, to improve what Debate House wants to do. I will not say anymore. I would hand it over to why we are here today. I think that we are here to celebrate a very good friend's fight. And Dede and I, we do have our good days and bad days. And I always say she brings the worst out of me, but Dede, today, something good out of me. So, Dede, what can I say? God bless you. We want to hear your story. We want to journey with you, and we want to give you all the support. More importantly is the fact that we want to hear the disparity in breast cancer issues for African women. And finally, Debate House intends to set up a fund that would seek to invest in research in breast cancer for women of African descent. So this is our first program. This is a test program, so forgive us if things don't go the way you expect it to go, but we are improving. It's our maiden event, so forgive us. Thank you. So I'll hand it over to, you have your mic, so I'll hand it over to you. Right.
Right. Right. Good evening, everyone, and first of all, thank you to the Debate House for having us tonight. I am Ulrich, Sidnick, and Munye. I am joined by two uh, very wonderful, powerful women. We have Dede, who was already introduced, was breast cancer survivor, and we have Emanuela Amwako, who's pediatric oncologist and clinical lead with Yamachi Biotech. The conversation tonight is going to be about breast cancer disparities, especially as regards black women and women of African descent. We'll be using uh, basically leveraging Dede's story to highlight some of the questions that most people will have, and we'll obviously be taking questions and comments as we progress. I was told we have another breast cancer survivor. We'll probably be calling to you, Cynthia. Um, so before we get into the thick of things, what you can expect is Dede generously sharing her story, and then Ella reinforcing that with some of the data we know, so we can better appreciate it. So thank you very much for making the time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Right. So first things first, Dede, if you can give us a little bit of, I know most people here know about you, but a little bit of background about you, what drives you, and hopefully moving to how you found out that you had breast cancer.
Okay, as for what drives me, that's going to be difficult. So I'll just move on to how I found out I had breast cancer. So this was 3 years ago. I had just taken my thyroid out. I've said this a few times in October, so it's becoming a bit of a rhetoric now. But 3 years ago, 2022, May or April, I had taken out my thyroid, so I was home recovering. And I was on the phone with my friend Adeline. So I was lying on my back, which is, I think, the position you're supposed to be in when you do your self-examination, amongst other things, being on your back. So I was on the phone lying on my back, and my hand hits my left breast, and I felt something hard, like a hard lump. So I remember telling Adela on the phone, "Oh, I just felt something in my breast," and the whole conversation turned into, "Why are you feeling your breasts?" and all that. But I remember telling my doctor friend that, "Oh, I found a lump in my breast," and she advised me to go back to the surgeon who took out the thyroid, who is also my friend. So the next day, or I sent him a WhatsApp, I'm not sure. So I told him I'd found a lump, and I'm being told by our mutual friend, doctor friend, to come back to him. So he said, oh, he's sure it's nothing. And this is a refrain I heard throughout the journey to finally being diagnosed. A lot of the doctors were my friends. So whenever I called them, oh, I have to do this, they're like, oh, I'm sure it's nothing, but yeah, go ahead and do it. So I went to see the doctor. He had somebody else do the physical examination, and he thought it was something to investigate further.
Mm-hmm.
So after that point, I think I went to do an ultrasound, and that confirmed that it could likely be cancer. So then I did a biopsy, and the doctor who did the biopsy just walked in. Dr. Hafi, she did my biopsy for me. And then after several days, I remember getting the report emailed to me. I was in the office with somebody sat opposite to me. I was having a little meeting, and I opened the email and the attachment, and I went down to the very bottom. You know how the results are at the very bottom of the pathology, and I remember seeing the word malignant, and I remember I started shaking. It was so unreal at that point, yes. I finished my meeting and went straight home at that point, and I sent it to my surgeon. Well, confirmed. So after that, he asked me to go and do a CT scan of the whole body to be sure it had not spread or whatever. So I did that, and I just found that report just a few days ago. I was cleaning my files, and I found that CT scan report, and I mean, it was nice to know that it wasn't anywhere else apart from the breast. So yeah, so that started a whirlwind of further conversations with lots of other doctors to agree on the next stages. I mean, after confirmation, to agree on the treatment plan and what to do when. So I remember the surgeon then offering to do a lumpectomy, because I think it was like 5 centimeters or so. So he was like, let's do a lumpectomy, which is where you go in and take out the lump and other tissue around the lump. But I remember insisting on my mastectomy. And there was a few days of back and forth of him saying for the size and whatever else, it was a lumpectomy would work just fine. He would just go in and scoop it out, and then I can go home and I'll be fine. But at that point, I was just thinking that I saw my left breast as this diseased part of my body that I had to get rid of, right? So I insisted on the mastectomy, and we scheduled that, and I had that on the 1st of June, 2022. And I opted to have an implant put in right away. So after the mastectomy, I think a week after, I started chemotherapy. Should I go on?
So, I mean, that's a good, I guess, segue. We're going to have some more in-depth conversations, but I think these conversations will probably be facilitated by a drink. So I've been advised to let everyone know that they should order the drinks. So please go ahead and order your drinks. I hope there's someone going around to get your drinks. Like you mentioned, as a cancer diagnosis is a whirlwind. There are a lot of things that happened. Um, so Ella, going back just a step back to getting the diagnosis of cancer, even just starting at that point, some of the realities for patients of African descent and Black patients. Can you discuss what that has been like for you in the practice?
Right, thank you. I would say that um, even though I'm a clinician researcher and broadly cancer, my clinical practice is mainly pediatrics. So we are a bit biased, but I see what happens in the adults, especially when you find something and then you have your diagnosis. Dede was lucky to have friends, one who she was able to discuss surgery, one who was able to do the biopsy. But even in her story, you could hear that she received her results herself. She shouldn't have, ideally. What should have happened was probably the results going to the doctor, and then the doctor setting up a meeting to have a conversation with her. Unfortunately, this is the reality for most African patients. Let me zoom in to Ghana. Maybe, should I say sub-Saharan? Maybe minus
South Africa because they seem to have things right. You go to the hospital, you find something. Most of the time, someone might tell you, oh, maybe it's nothing. Well, everyone told her it might be nothing, but she kept pushing. This is not normal. So, number one, it takes someone who is aware to even self-examine. They pick up the disease, go to a hospital, hoping that no one tells them it's nothing. They have to go for onward to do an ultrasound, which a few people can pay for. You have to go on to do a mammogram, which not everybody can pay for. And depending on where you live in Ghana, you might not have access to a mammogram. Then when you have those results, you go and see someone who has to sort of do a biopsy. It depends on where you are. So people may have to make a journey to somewhere where they would have a biopsy done. And then that tissue is taken by the patient in most public facilities to the pathologist, right? And then the pathologist sees it. And the primary contact they have is the patient. So they send the result to the patient. Imagine the emotional distress. She's in the middle of a meeting. She opens her email and it's telling you that you have breast cancer. This is the reality for most Ghanaian patients. I try to understand that we are very diverse, so we are sticking to Ghana. This is the reality for most Ghanaian patients who would be diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah, and again, going back to how you described it, earlier you said you had, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that even before the lump, there were things that were happening, right?
Oh, yeah. So the diagnosis confirmed that I had taken a lot of symptoms for granted because I had been having shoe pains in my breast for a long time. Me being in the office and hitting my breast was a common thing. I'll hit my breast because I was feeling something in my breast. And then there was dimpling as well. And then the one breast became a little bigger than the other. But I always explain those things away. You know, when you're having a period or before a period, you always experience body changes. So I always thought, oh yeah, it's just my period coming or I just finished or whatever. So the diagnosis confirmed that I had taken those things for granted. We think we know so much. We even know too much. So we can explain away any little symptom that comes, right? So yeah.
That is one of the things that, going back to what Ella was saying, where it's obviously important to be aware and pay attention to changes, but it's also important to have someone
Juice connotates a higher risk for cancer. It might not necessarily mean the same for black people. So there are other genes that might lead or might increase your risk for breast cancer in Africans, but unfortunately, because only about 2% of the genetic pool in the world is from black people, we don't understand those genes and we don't know them yet.
Okay. And therefore, we want to make sure that we have access to the right information, the research, so that we can make sure that people get the right treatment.
Absolutely.
Right? Then in your case, you said they suggested a lumpectomy, so just taking a small part of this tissue. You opted for a
breast there, then there will be the chance of it coming back. So that was the main reason why I just wanted to be sure that my treatment would put me in remission for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And following that, you then got an implant, right?
Yes.
Okay. And from that helped you, obviously, cosmetically, but even that had its own history.
Yes, so making sure that you're receiving your chemotherapy, on time. We don't have to struggle with IV lines because over time, okay, those veins collapse and we are going to struggle with the line. So depending on how long.
But even putting that line in was expensive. You have to pay dollars to the cardio department.
Yeah.
To put in a central line. I mean, it's crazy.
So just a few people can afford the pots being put in, right? And not even, a lot of people are not offered because unfortunately the first thing that we do when we see patients is to gauge whether they can afford. And you don't even want to bring it up because you're afraid that you will make them not continue their treatment once you start mentioning things that they need to pay for. And so everyone settles for IV lines, and then if it's not working, then you bring up, oh, there's this other option. Is this something that you can afford? Right? And as they mentioned, most people can't afford it because you would have to pay in dollars. So that's one aspect of even getting to receive the chemotherapy. And then, whilst receiving chemotherapy, of course, everything has side effects, right? Um, so we do have your immune system low, you are likely to have fevers, you might need a transfusion or two, you would lose your hair, your nails, your skin become dark. But the truth is that after that chemotherapy, everything is going to grow back. Your hair is going to grow back, the skin is going to be less dark. And there are other side effects like metallic taste in the mouth, people complain of pain in their feet, and then there's edema that comes with it. So there's all these things. So minus the science, there's also the social aspect that people have to deal with. She had to drive from Sakumono. It's just too difficult. So the access here, it's not the availability of it, because yeah, in Ghana the drugs are there, the people are there, but to that person who is living in the farthest north part of the country, how easy is it for them to have access to the drugs or to the clinician that exists?
And there's also the notion that chemo is this terrible thing. You mentioned about it. I'll cite an example. I remember when we discovered the infection I had. So I was given this very strong antibiotic IV. So I had to have it every day. So I went to my nearest hospital to have that done because I couldn't go to Kulibo every day. So I remember this nurse there, who was my favorite nurse, because she would take a time. That was before I had the central line, but she would take a time to put it through my IV. So I had an IV put in for like a week. So one day she asked me, so why am I having this strong antibiotic? Because it's a bit unusual. She doesn't see it often. And I said, oh, I'm having chemo and I've had an infection, so that's why I'm having this antibiotic. And her response was like, can I speak to you like a sister? This chemo will kill you. You have to stop taking it.
Wow.
And this was from a nurse. And she was my favorite nurse because she was so diligent. It's going to kill you. You have to stop it. You know, you can go and see this guy in Madino Adenta. She gave me a name. Apparently, he's healing people through food or nutrition.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, Mate, but I trust my doctor, so
Yeah.
I'm going to continue with the chemo. So, and this a nurse giving
Yeah.
advice to
Yeah.
patients not to continue chemo.
Yeah.
So there's also this idea that people have that chemo is toxic and will do more harm than
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, two quick announcements. The first one, there's free internet, Starlink, available, and the next one is we'll just take a short break while we get some service around.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I need a cocktail.
Good evening, everyone. So, our waiters will be going around with clips. They contain our menu. So, what we'll be doing is whatever you would want to take, you are entitled to 2 proteins. So, if you would want any of them, you put 2 of the protein cards on your.
So we were talking about treatment, and we've already spoken about surgery, chemotherapy, but that's not all you got as treatment. You equally got radiotherapy. So how did that come about, and what did that look like?
Okay, so sorry. Yes, I had radiotherapy as well, and I had 15 sessions. So it was every day for 3 weeks, Monday to Friday. So I think I told you earlier that was also hard for me. So for me, the cancer journey, I was very scared of chemo, because as I said earlier, everybody thinks chemo is this crazy thing that can cause a lot more harm than good. But for me, my personal experience of chemo was fairly okay, you know. Even though during the time you're having chemo, every little thing that you feel, you check with the doctor, they tell you it's because of the chemo. I had this big rash, chemo. My nail fell off, chemo, and all that. But it was fine. I didn't even throw up once, you know. Surgery was a tough thing. Radiotherapy was tough for me because I was going every day for 3 weeks. And when I was doing chemo, I was doing it in a section at Kolebu where it was a little room, an intramural, just a few people in a room, maybe 3 or 5 at a time. But radiotherapy, you join the queue with everyone else. So you have to get there very early in the morning, and you sit with very visibly sick people. There was this lady with a hole in her cheek. It was stressful. Lots of old men, I'm sure they had issues with their prostates. So you're going like slaves, one after the other. It's for a few minutes, but you sit there for hours. You see people come and go. They are looking so ill, and I found the radiographers or whatever they are called a bit impersonal. But I guess they are doing this every day. They are not there to come and baby anybody. So that was tough. Having to do that every day and be sat with very sick-looking people. Because old men, and so there's this bed you lie on. They are just changing the paper sheet on it, in between patients. And I always thought, God, these old men have laid there with their bare balls on that thing, and I have to go and lie.
Fair enough.
That was really difficult for me. So radiotherapy was hard, but it was painless. Oh, and that one, afterwards, your skin, it's like you've had a very bad tan. Your skin will just become black and peel off. And it will hurt after the sessions. So the effects, you feel it afterwards, like days after. Yeah, that wasn't easy. And then you wonder what's the point of it. If you're not a medical person, you just lie there for some seconds and you get up. What is it doing? Yeah.
It's amazing to hear about your resilience and how you managed to find levity out of something that was quite a challenging situation.
No, at that time it wasn't.
Management of cancer, there's so many options, right? There's chemotherapy, so drugs, surgery, radiotherapy. Some people use hormones and cells and all those different things. Bringing it back to people of African descent, what can studying the genetic material for people of African descent do to a current understanding of it? Like they said, you wonder what is the point, right? You wonder what is the point. Is it actually working? Is it doing anything? Right? You want to answer that question in people of African descent.
Yeah. I think understanding the gene pool or even just understanding the disease itself in people of African descent is very important. I would say, and it's something I probably say all the time, that the protocols that we use here in most of Africa are protocols that have been adapted from the US or Europe. Now, the people in those clinical trials where they were able to draw up those protocols, because before you draw up a protocol, you have to do what we call a clinical trial, where you have people who are sick in a controlled setting and then see how they respond. And that is when you decide that this protocol or these and these and these drugs work. And so we would go along these lines to treat these people. Now, the people that are in those clinics, people of African descent have a very diverse gene pool. We are very, so between myself and you, if they were to look at our genetics, it's not treatable, but because it's not understood. So those protocols are literally adapted to our setting without the science, right? And so we have women not responding to treatment as well as Caucasian women will. In Sweden, the treatment rates for cancers, or the positive or survival rates for breast cancers is nearing 98%. Unfortunately, here we still have it at about 40%. And it's not just because people don't present early. It's multiple factors, and one of the biggest things is that the gene is not understood. If we are able to crack that African gene code, it's not just going to be for us, but it's going to help everyone globally.
Right, thank you. We're going to get the explanation for the menu. I think there's a bit of confusion on that, so clarification will be helpful.
Okay, so please, we all have the clips. Kindly look at it. You see 3 proteins. Kindly place 2 of the proteins you would want on your, like, the side. Then you look through, you see sides also. So the sides, you see yam balls, you see sweet potato chips. So either of one that you want, please. Pardon? The salad too would come. So you see pasta salad, you see Caesar salad. So either or, yes. So you pick one. Then you see your dessert also. That is later on. You can just put it there. So kindly assist us with the placement of the cards for us to know what you would like. So 2 proteins, 1 side, 1 salad. But the starters have the black cards. That one, everyone is going to have it. So if you want the starter comprises of samosa, spring roll, and garlic bread. So if you'd want it, you can just place the black card also there. So 2 proteins, 1 side, 1 salad. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So at this juncture, I think it's a good point for us to get some questions from all those in attendance. If you have any question regarding what's been said, please raise your hand so we can. No questions so far? Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Today, you haven't said to us about spirituality. When you were told this, what was going through your mind aside being afraid and picking your bag and running home? I just want to know. Yeah, and we all know that you went through that, am I going to die or not? But did you have questions? What did you do in terms of your spiritual well-being?
Trust Debbie, who is the Ojashos of my friends, to bring this. Okay, so I'm very comfortable speaking on spirituality, but I will say that I've always had this belief, apart from never feeling like I was this special being who should not experience hardship in life. Whenever anything happens to me, I don't go, why me? I don't do that. But I've always had this belief that whatever happens, God will see me through. So everything I go through is temporary. It's something I'm going through. It's just a blip in my life, but God will see me through. So blind faith in God, and then blind trust in my doctors. To me, they are God as well, right? God has given them this great wisdom to do what they do. So I combine both. I trust that God will see me through, and I trust that He will guide the medical team to also do right by me. Even though I don't pray like, crazy prayers. I don't do that. But I just say, God, Charlie, you are in control. Take care of me. That's it. Is that okay for you, Deborah? He's mine, Charlie.
Okay. Any other question?
No, can I just say, maybe we can move this chair so others can sit. Nobody's going to join us. Before Ifya speaks, I want to say something. So maybe about 8 years ago, I was feeling like I was in a rut, and I thought, there should be something more to my life than what I'm doing now. I was working in North Industrial Area then, And, my life was just about waking up, being in traffic, going to work. My former boss is here, not really enjoying what I was doing. So I told a friend of mine that I feel I need to speak to maybe an older lady who was go ahead ish together, like a life coach sort of thing. I just want to talk to somebody. And my friend recommended Ifia Pia, the one who just about to speak. So, and I used to see her online. I thought she was like this badass chick anyway. So Ifia and I used to meet after work and then walk from Fiesta Royale either to Tetekwashi or the other way, and we just talk. We just talk about life and its issues. And then along the way, she would tell of people who are dropping stuff on the floor and all that. She's that sort of person. And she was always so super fit, eats clean, lives a healthy life. And then when I found out I had breast cancer, and I told our mutual friend who recommended me to her, she also shared that Ify had also just gotten a diagnosis. So when I got mine, I always had this at the back of my mind that I got it because maybe I was overweight and unhealthy. I didn't want to. I'll never admit it to my doctor, but I always felt, But when I heard Ifya had it, I was shocked because Ifya is the most healthy person I know. So it made me feel a little better. Yeah. So we've gone through that journey together because our timelines were very close. Yeah.
Yeah, we spent so much time talking and walking.
Talking
and
shit about cancer.
I know. And we never encouraged each other to go and do a breast examination or anything because I guess we thought, it never occurred to us. And we were off the bougie treatment, yes. And that is very sweet treatment because at that cost, your side effects, all of those things are managed. And it's really worth the cost. On the other side, yes. On the other side, one treatment of the day can cover 8 treatments. So it's quite a disparity. And I would say maybe 80 or 90% of the women who walk into Kolebu have access or can afford that treatment. So there definitely is a suite of treatment options that you have. And you're asked, you go to a cancer board and they tell you this is what, these are your options. So the cost will not kill you if you choose the right cost, what you can afford. But there are those options. So it's not super, super crazy expensive to treat cancer in Ghana. But unfortunately, that 8,000 or that 10,000 for chemo treatment for the down the scale, a lot of people can't afford it. So that is the unfortunate part, that people go to Kolebu, they start chemo, and they can't even afford maybe 1,500 for treatment, or they can't even afford maybe 600 for a session. So that is the gravity of it, that cancer can be treated in Ghana if you catch it early, but it's sometimes out of the cost reach, and that cost isn't exorbitant cost. It is cost that maybe you spend when you go out with your girls or when you buy a wig, or it's that germane.
Thanks for raising that. That's a very important point, because when we talk about access disparities, it is, if we're looking at outside of Ghana, if we're looking at the US, the UK, there have been studies that have clearly shown that in terms of financial barriers, they are responsible, for example, for the lack of detection and for people presenting late and for people having more severe forms and not having access to the treatment. But for Ghana, I'll leave it to you, Ella. What is your experience in having cancer plus poverty? Like she explained,
Yeah.
it's a different pathway.
Yeah. To be honest, you don't even have to be poor to suffer from what she said. And I tend to call it financial toxicity. Now, middle class, you make, I don't know, say 5,000, 6,000, even 10,000 a month. You have your family to take care of. You have school fees to pay. You have cars to take care of. And then you're hit with a cancer diagnosis. You can't afford it. So you really don't have to be poor. It's even though studies have shown that treatment of cancer in Ghana is actually relatively cheap, because Dede is talking 300,000, which is about 30,000 US for her whole treat. That is cheap. If you tell someone in US you spent that money for treatment, they will be like, oh, that's so cheap. It's cheap. But then relatively it's expensive, because most of the population lives under the poverty line, right? And as she rightly said, your demographics, you'll be sort of prescribed what you can afford. People have been to the radiotherapy room. I have a daughter who had cancer, and I've been to the radiotherapy place with her, and I've seen people being turned back because they can't pay for one session. And you know that your life is hanging on it. I have a friend, a very dear friend, who was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had to get radiotherapy. And I'm like, the Kolebu machine is broken down. Let's go to Swedish Ghana. She's like, hey, I can't afford that one. And this is a medical doctor. So you don't even have to be poor, right? It is expensive because everything is out of pocket. Thankfully, Herceptin is on insurance, but that's the only thing. They say breast cancer treatment is on insurance. On paper, it's on insurance. But in real life, you have to pay for your pathology, you have to pay for your CT scan, the antibiotics when you're sick, some of the chemotherapy drugs which are not available in the hospital, you have to pay for them. So the financial toxicity is real. You don't have to be poor. So imagine someone who is a farmer who has to make a journey from somewhere to Kolebu or to another big center. That transportation is one thing. She's leaving her house, she's leaving her family. And sorry, I'm saying she, but breast cancer also affects men. You're also leaving your day job that would bring you the money, and then you're moving. How was it at work? I don't know. You tell us how it was, the support you got. But most people lose their jobs. I've had, and again, this is pediatric cancer, I've had parents who have to come and sit with their children, and they've been sacked from work. Not everybody gets the support. So it's a whole myriad of things that happen in our system, which has to be fixed.
For me at work, I was very transparent with my employers about what I was going through. Purely because I didn't want to be stressed, so I'm telling you what I'm going through. I've got 2 colleagues here, so I told my the head of the department individually what I was going through. So there was a lot of support in terms of time off. So when I have chemo, the first few days afterwards, there's no bother. I could work from home, and then the second week I could go to work, and so forth. So no issue there, to be honest with you. Yeah, but I know of people I've supported who either are sacked or they are still there, but they are not paid
but you
after a
can't
while.
be paid
Yeah,
because you are just here and you can't. So that's some of the problems that exist in our setting. Women are not given the support, and we'll unpack it going forward. I don't want to jump the gun.
So let's move forward from Kolebu. You've left, you're done with Kolebu and all the treatments. And you decided with your team, your medical team, to go for an additional step. Can you tell us a little bit about how that decision came through and what that looked like?
Okay, so we discussed me checking post-treatment, some months after post-treatment, to be sure if there was any trace of cancer. So I was told about PET scan, and maybe you can ask radiologists to talk about PET scan. But I was told about PET scan. At the time, 2 years ago, there wasn't any in Ghana. So the 3 options in Africa that I was given of where I could get it done was Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa. So I opted to have it done in Kenya. So I went to Kenya with a couple of friends, and I had the scan done there, and fortunately it was all clear. And then after that, I also then had a hysterectomy. So I took out my ovaries and my womb and my cervix and my tubes just to be triple sure.
Wow. So, can we get the mic to the consultant radiologist about the PET scan, please?
Oh, thank you for putting me on the spot. So, as a radiologist, we usually deal with imaging. And when I say imaging, we have various kinds of imaging, like ultrasound, mammogram, CT scan. So when you have an unfortunate diagnosis of breast cancer, we do quite a bit of imaging from your mammogram, and perhaps we'll do a CT scan to try and find out if the tumor has spread from the primary organ where it started from. So that is something we call anatomical imaging, basically to look at the normal structures, look for the disease and how far it has extended beyond the primary site. So PET scan uses other, modalities to also try to evaluate the disease. And what it does is trying to look for the metabolic activity related to the disease. So basically it wants to know if there's increased uptake of things like glucose within the tumor. So it would tend to produce an increased activity in that region. That area will look bright and stand out. So consequently, if the tumor has spread outside to other parts of the body, it would also light up. So it's a very easy way of being able to determine if the disease has, bolted, gone out of the primary site, and it's very sensitive. So if you have really tiny tumor elsewhere in the rest of the body, it's able to pick it up. So it's actually a whole body scan, and it's a really good way to determine if the tumor has come back, if it has spread beyond the primary site. So that's PET scan in a nutshell.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Ella, another really common theme coming out of this story, having to travel because something is not available. Maybe it's not available because it's not in the country, or it's in the country, it's not working, or something like that. So from your experience, again, how does this often happen, and how does this contribute to the burden of the disease?
All right. Unfortunately, a lot of things don't work. I feel bad. I feel like I'm tearing the system that I work with apart here, but I'm always an advocate for things to work, and so I will talk about it. With regards to machines that you need, she did mention that she needed a PET. Ideally, at the beginning of treatment, you probably need a PET to see, and then at the end, we look at it to determine your response. A very common thing that you hear in movies, I had a PET scan, it lit up like a Christmas tree, or it was all fine. That in 2023, Ghana didn't have in fact, we just had a PET scan in Ghana, and it's one. That is one PET scan to 30 million people. And it's too expensive, so it's out of the reach for most Ghanaians. Well, it's better than buying a ticket to Kenya, but yes, it's very expensive. It's actually... Sorry, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Medina or wherever it is to get it done for the same price.
And I actually like that point. You can actually juxtapose them side by side and say that money will take you outside for a PET scan and a holiday rather than having it here. But think about the support. She had you, right? She had the support, but not everybody has that support. So that's one PET scan to 30 million people. That's inadequate. Japan is doing one PET scan to 40 people per population.
Wow.
And then you come to the radiotherapy machines. As we speak, Happy is looking at me. There's only 2 that function in Ghana, and they are all in Accra. So imagine that woman in Tamale or Wa that has been diagnosed, and she needs to come for radiotherapy because they give you chemotherapy and you have less than 6 weeks to start your radiation. Now everybody is queuing at Kolebu because many people cannot afford Swedish Ghana Medical Center. And so they are queuing, and the wait time is about 3 months. By the time she gets on that machine, the cancer has come back. And at that point, there's nothing she can do. It's rather unfortunate. And we see this every day, right? It means that's one machine to 15 million people. That's uncalled for. In Kenya, just next door, it's one machine to about 100,000 people because someone was sensible enough to build a whole center and have 15 Linux machines just there waiting. And he named it after himself, and I'm like, dude, name it after yourself. It's okay. You can, do it. It's fine because you bought 15. And I think it's one of the things that we are not looking at here. Cancer currently, as we sit, affects 1 in 4 people globally. 1 in 4. So in this room, look at how many we are and count what 1 in 4 means. Right? We must, as a people, know that we are living longer, right? We are not dying of infectious disease. We are not dying of malaria and things like we did in the past. So we are going to live to a certain age. It also means that the risks are increased. We must put our money where our mouth is. If people are going to live longer, people are going to get cancer. And it's not a case. I'm not saying you get cancer because I want to say it. It's the reality. And I feel like that's what the Americans got right. Very early in 1960, they agreed that the world wars were over, people were living long, and people were definitely going to get cancer. Not because of anything, but because as a human being, remember that cancer is a part of you that is trying to live long. The cancer cell is not from outside. It is your body that has gone rogue, trying to live longer than the rest of the body. Unfortunately, it spreads, right? Those cells are hard to kill because they figured out how to live long. They figured out their own blood supply. They figured out how to grow, and the stop mechanism is not stopping them. And as human beings, all we want to do is live longer. But those cells have figured it out. So it's here. It's going to be here. And the earlier we realize it as a people, that this disease is one that affects everybody irrespective of your socio-demographic, your class, your race, we are just going to sit here and have this conversation year after year with no improvement.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Quick question before you go on, Doc. I'm just sitting here and wondering, because prior to this, I didn't know we had only 2 radio machines in the country. Radio for short.
No.
Radio for short. Whether logi or therapy, radio for short.
Radiotherapy, actually.
Thank you. So I just want to know the average cost of one machine. And prior to this, we heard about the dialysis machine and a lot of doctors making noise. Is it that we haven't made enough noise about this particular issue? Because I didn't know. This is the first time I'm knowing this. And if we haven't made enough, or if we haven't made much noise, what are we all going to do going forward?
Right. Why should we even make noise?
Nobody. The problems are plenty, so we have to make noise. It's fine.
Yes, exactly.
As at the last time I checked, I think it was going for about $5 million US for a whole unit. But that's not something, that means someone has spent $5 million recently. So that's the cost of one machine. But I feel like leaders have to, what was it that Nkenga Song said regarding invest in their human resource, which is like you're the value to the nation. Without you, the nation doesn't work. Without you, there's no taxes. If you're sick, you can't go to work. There's no taxes to be made, right? It's $5 million for a country is not a lot of money. There's money that has been spent for other things, right? For making noise, we have made noise. They said the pen is mightier than the sword, but I don't believe that because I've written a lot of times and it has gone nowhere. Except Fred, maybe your reach is not wide enough because I've written about radiotherapy machines not being available in Ghana. Working radiotherapy machines. There are ones that don't work.
I like that. Action oriented.
Yes.
So everybody do something about it. So besides your status, if you're in media, it's a good opportunity to cover it. But also speaking around, I think we've seen that there are a few corporate social responsibility. They're actually looking for ways to make meaningful impact, and this is one of the ways that we can make meaningful impact. Dede, again, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your experience so much with us. I want to perhaps find out in your journey, were there things that you wish you had done differently? I'm talking about the cancer journey. Whether there are things that you look back at and say, okay.
So I think I should have done chemo before surgery and not been so obsessed about mastectomy, right? Because that sort of made things a lot more difficult for me mentally. I also think that I should not have, maybe I should have also been more vulnerable with my friends. That's a very sarcastic wow, by the way. It's fine. It's not me. It's not in my nature to be very vulnerable with people. So before today, I was thinking about the journey, and I realized I was isolating for me, but I made it that way. I struggled to show my low moments with people, and I actually did it with strangers. I cried on a lab man one day in, what do you call that? The biggest lab. He was drawing my blood, and Lancet. He was drawing my blood, and I was thinking, what am I doing here? You know, I was asking myself, what is this? And I started crying. He would look at me, and this guy was very unemotional. You know, he was just looking at me like, oh, and then he goes. And I remember one time too, I was struggling with the CT scan and Kolibu, because you have to do the CT before radiotherapy, because they have to map, they have to do that. So, first of all, it was out of service for a little while, and then I went to get it done. You wait for many hours, it gets your turn, they're like, oh, but you need to do it with dye. But I had the central line at that point, but I didn't bring the needle for the central line, so I had to go home. I was so pissed off. So the following day, I came back. I sat in the queue again, and I was just feeling very off. Again, I was sitting there thinking, what the heck am I doing here, you know? Why has Kolebu been my second home? So I was sat there waiting to be seen, and then my oncologist, Dr. Nadoko, came by, and he was like, oh, Dede, how are you? And I just burst out. It was like an avalanche of tears just came out, you know, in the wide open. It was so embarrassing.
It wasn't embarrassing. You're human.
But yes, it was isolating for me because I didn't know how to, I didn't want to talk so much about it with my friends. When I speak to them, I wanted it to be about something else. I didn't want every conversation to be about what I was going through. There was just this one lady that I connected with, a young girl in her mid-30s. I met her. She had done chemo before surgery. So I met her when I was going to take out my implant after the infection. She was also coming to take out her expander, similar to an implant. Anyway, she also had an infection. So we were sharing a room. And then I saw her, and she had finished chemo, and her hair was growing back. So this was me who had one chemo session, and I was yet to lose my hair, and I was so scared of how chemo would treat me. And I saw this person who had finished chemo and was looking so well, and it was so inspirational, right? So we became friends. We're sharing, you know, WhatsApp messages and sharing where we could go and get the fake boob for your bra and all that sort of thing. And luckily for her, her cancer came back. I don't even think it went away because she finished chemo and then was scheduled for radiotherapy. And when she did her CT scan, I think they found out that it was still there. Passed away. I was with Anne December 29th or whatever. I tried to message her. She was not responding. I saw her DP had been changed to RIP, and it was hard. So I called my oncology. I'm like, Sheila has passed away, Anyway, so I couldn't really open up to people who were close to me because it was not their journey. I didn't think they would get it, and I don't know how to be that person who is, being vulnerable and opening up. So even though it was lonely, it was my own doing. It's still me. I don't know if I'll act any differently, right? Because I had the same issue with my mother. And then one last thing, I think I also overestimated the impact on my child. When we first spoke about, underestimated the effects on her. Because when I first broke the news to her, she had heard it, so I had to tell it before I was prepared. I'm like, yeah, confirmed, I'm getting treatment, I'll be okay. And then she's like, okay. Then she walked off. And I was like, wow, my daughter is so resilient. She just took it like that. And so we went through treatment. So this was 3 years ago. But recently, I was speaking to her about doing something to give back, right? So I have started this NGO thing to pay for treatment for breast cancer patients. So I was telling her that, she's going to wrap it up. Era, you could also piggyback on what I'm doing and offer support to children of breast cancer patients. So we're driving, and then this girl was quiet. And I looked at her, and she was crying. I'm like, why are you crying? I'm like, why are you crying? Simple question. She's like, I'm like, she was crying quite quietly, and I'm like, is it hard for you? Is it bringing back bad memories? She was like, yes. And then she said, every time you went for treatment or to the hospital, I was so scared you would not come back. So I think she's similar to me. We bottle things up and avoid being emotional. So it made me realize that I had, underestimated the effects on her. So I'm now trying to get her therapy, or she's getting therapy. Her therapist is up there. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. Ella, from what Dede said, it highlights obviously the role of support, but also the impact of those around the person. So cancer doesn't just affect the person who's diagnosed, other people. If you can talk about what that has been like in your practice and the role of patient navigators in helping people cope with this diagnosis and condition.
Right. Currently, there's the psychological support in the hospitals. It's very minimal. In some hospitals, it doesn't exist. I don't know if we're offered counseling at, right. So, and this is Kolebu, which is Kolebu, right? So ideally at diagnosis, again, we are not ideal, unfortunately, but you should be offered that and to support you. But I find that in the African system, your family is your support. We build a lot on our family systems, and it's something that has been studied. There are papers about it, on how people literally lean on families during these periods. Now, if you're like Dede, who doesn't want to lean on anyone, then you're probably in big trouble. But I find that our social systems are actually helpful. It's not an excuse not to have psychological systems available or accessible in the hospitals, but it does help to have family behind you. Unfortunately, some women face spousal abandonment during their treatments. Women and men, face spousal abandonment, and that even worsens it. I've also studied that support groups help, but then it can be tricky. It's like a double-edged sword. So she said she knew someone who had cancer. Say you're in the same support group and then the person dies. How do you move on? And the question is, if she died, what makes me special, right? So there's a role of support groups, but then it's a double-edged sword. It could work either way for people. But we must do better when it comes to the support that exists in our system. She had a hands up.
Thank you very much. So I am a proud Kolebu patient, and I did all my treatment in Kolebu. And I had been volunteering with the breast care team about like 4 years before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So when I got the diagnosis, well, I felt it myself. I crossed the street, went to UGMC, had a CT scan, saw the lump, called the surgeon that I'd been volunteering with, and told her. She said, come over from UGMC to Kolebu in 26 minutes. It is possible to go that fast. No, it was like a Wednesday or something. So I went really fast, and that speed was what I used throughout my treatment. I was like, Josephine, we know what it is. Let's not waste time. She's like, you have to go and do this. You have to go and do this. And I just asked my oncologist, how long is this going to take? She said 5-6 months. I pushed through 5-6 months. It went so fast. I didn't cry throughout the process. Every process I went, I was with my sister. She did all the crying for me. And so when you talk about the weight on your family, that it's quite weighty on your family. But the only thing that saw me through was, I'm a talker. I spoke about it from day one. I was on various fora. I was telling people about breast cancer. And for me, that was my therapy. I told everybody. The right thing is, there is a psychologist who you are given access to guide you through the process, because it's not an easy process. And no one has to do it alone. And Kolebu does that for you. And everywhere I go, I say, look, you don't go abroad, because Kolebu has it. Kolebu has a specialist, from oncologists to plastic surgeries to general surgeons. Kolebu can do that for you. And they know what they're doing. And I always tell people that there is an office in Kolebu that if you're so moved by anyone's story, there's an office in Kolebu. You can go, and if it's 500 cities, if it's 1,000 cities, if it's 100,000 cities, you donate it at that office and make a note that this goes to breast cancer treatment. And the doctors will find that money. And it will go to breast cancer treatment. It won't get lost in the system. So I tell everybody, if you want to support breast cancer, you can do it no matter how much money you have. So that's my plug for all donations for Kolebu.
That's fantastic. I'm not sure that the CEO of Kolebu has been as much of a champion
I know.
as Ifya has been. I think that we have to advocate for her to be an ambassador. Kolebu ambassador.
Yeah, because
but
I was telling you last time that I referred the patient to Kolebu and they would not come.
Yeah.
Like, this person is in Kaswa and I'm in Central, like Cape Coast. And I'm like, go to Kolebu because I can't treat you here. And the mom would rather come from Kaswa every 3 weeks to Cape Coast to receive what treatment I can give
Well,
her.
to be
So
fair,
we need
Kaswa
you
is
as
in Central Region.
But it's closer to. I mean, the road is so bad these days.
Yeah,
She would rather make
That's
that drive.
crazy.
So I think we need you as PRO.
Advocate, Kolebu advocate. But it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was going to speak somewhere else, and they were trying to use the Kolebu bashing angle. I'm like, I'm not doing this with you, because I really did not have a bad experience. The system will make you cry sometimes, but the people, well, in intramural, great people. I mean, you can speak. Do you want to? Yeah.
So my daughter had cancer, what, about 6 years ago?
More, like 7.
7 years ago. Yeah, it's been 7 years. And prior to that, I would have said, Kolebu, so the system doesn't really work well sometimes, but the people that actually work there are angels. Because the conditions under which they work and the care that they deliver, that was in your department.
Yeah.
They treat every child equally. And the hours that the nurses have to work, the doctors, they never complain. They've all got these like really crappy cars. They don't really care. No, you really have to love. I mean, you go there and you really understand what being a doctor is. You're not the ones we see who are businessmen. They will turn up to work whether they are being paid or not being paid. And they deliver excellent care. So as much as we bash Kolebu, for me, they saved my daughter's life. And I can only say good things about them. I mean, you really have to put in some work yourself. But then when you go there and you are patient, you will get the care that you need.
Yeah. Thanks. So I think that what that basically summarizes to is they are fantastic people, they are competent, they are caring, they need the help, right? Because having to wait as long as people have to wait is because there's so much. Everybody's coming to Kolebu, and so they need the help, right?
Burkina, yeah.
Not the doctors, not the doctors are very experienced people.
The system and some of the nurses,
Exactly.
but yeah.
So it's a system, really, and that's like a national issue.
Yeah, the point I wanted to make was that it was important, especially in such low resource environment, to form the soft, not the soft skills, but the soft kind of currency. For example, in Efia's case, she had been a volunteer for a long time, so she had that access and she could just call anybody because she had a relationship with them, and that was extremely important within the context of her treatment, as well as knowing who to call because of the work she had done in the past. So this is something we all must do as much as we can, so that when you have that kind of currency, you can get the kind of treatment you need in such an environment.
That's very true for me as well. A lot of, like, if I'm going to Hafiz team, I call her, I don't queue. So, so knowing people, yes, yeah. Yes. We're just stating it as it is, that they help that we knew people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to say that, unfortunately, we are not investing as much as we should in health. And healthcare in Ghana is seriously underfunded. So for a hospital like Kolebu, where we provide care to such a wide, diverse range of patients, we take care of the poorest of society, and we usually don't turn them away. So our doors are always open to corporate entities who want to donate to all the different facilities. I'm not pitching, but yes, it really goes a long way to improve the facility and so many things, to make it more conducive for patients to come in, and also for us. We also deserve to work in fancy environments. But what I really wanted to say, maybe a bit controversial, but where does religion and our culture play in a cancer diagnosis? Because I think sometimes that we are overly religious. And so we sometimes put our head in the sand when we are given the cancer diagnosis, and it affects care, because then some people go to all sorts of places before they actually accept treatment, and they will not even get the opportunity to be cured. And also, we are quite secretive when it comes to our illness. I know of a mother who died, and her children didn't know she died of breast cancer. So you can imagine the implications. They are also potentially at risk. So I don't know if I'd say it's cultural or religion, but it's really a stumbling block when it comes to cancer care. And I feel like at least for those of us in this room, we should be a bit different about it going forward. When you have a diagnosis like that, it helps to share. The whites do it all the time. They'll have a blog and be telling you they're not worried that, the cancer was transmitted through some evil activity. And we feel that a lot. So maybe Ella, I'm sure Ella has lots of stories to tell us about that. But I definitely think it's something we should be talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much. In fact, I was thinking if we could get the mic to the psychologist, maybe help us, enlighten us about coping mechanisms. Because what we've heard so far is about coping mechanisms, and there are good ways to cope, and there are not so good ways to cope. And so if we can maybe be educated a little bit about coping mechanisms and cancer diagnosis. She's upstairs, so sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mimi. So the first thing I would want to speak on is caregiver exhaustion. So most of the time when someone is going through cancer, there are people who help them, move them around, drive them around, and without them, okay, so I'd love to speak first. I think most people know what those who actually have cancer go through, but let's focus now on those around the people going through cancer. So there's caregiver exhaustion, like I mentioned, where those offering support to the one having the cancer on their own, they go through a lot. So they give up time to be with them. They have to sometimes use their own resources where they are not even, in that capacity to help. And it affects a lot of things. Let's speak on the family. There's collective trauma. I personally lost my favorite aunt to cancer 16 years ago. And at the time, I didn't really understand the weight of the issue. Until date, I noticed that everyone in the family still struggles with her departure because we saw the process she went through, everything, her body changing and all that. And no one is able to speak on it. So it's just a few of us who have gathered the courage, sit around, talk about it, and we've been able to let it out. And there were a lot of tears that were shed. So it's important that the families are able to come together and rally behind whoever is going through it. Having a positive energy around the people suffering cancer helps a lot. It's important that we let them understand we also feel what they are feeling. We don't have to put on a happy face all the time. It's not realistic. So being real about a situation helps to cope with how bad the situation is. We don't have to sugarcoat our feelings. We don't have to hide. If they are crying, you feel like crying, you need to cry. All these helps. The kind of support that we show around them helps. Another thing too, I would want to speak regards to those who have cancer itself or like survivors. Your appearance helps also. We underestimate the importance of looking good regardless of the pain. Our brain has a way that it functions that it knows when you look good. People will compliment you when you look good. You can actually tell that people around you can see, even if they don't say it. That alone also helps. So whilst you are going through it, you shouldn't let yourself go. Try to keep a positive energy. Wear your favorite color all the time. There's a thing with favorite colors that helps people who are suffering. It eases the pain. And so, yeah, that's what I can say for now. If there's anything else directly, I can
Thank you
speak
so
on
much.
it. Yeah.
Thanks. Right, I think we are well over time, right? Okay, so there's so much more that I would love to discuss, but we have to be respectful of your time. Once again, thank you so much, Dede, for making the time. And thank you, Ella, for sharing your expertise. And a big, big thank you to the Debate House for hosting this and everybody else involved. Thank you. Right, so food is being served, so we're just going to, yeah.
So, it's interesting. A lot of people ask me, how can we help people going through breast cancer? And I think it was about 3 years ago, Kobe Addison, no, I think it was Jude. I asked, what are you doing for breast cancer? I asked QIC. And interestingly enough, Jude said they were ready to give a ride to any person who needed a ride to go to Kolebu for treatment. And I thought that was very nice of QIC. And so I think...
I don't know about... I've got somebody for you who needs to go for treatment tomorrow.
Yeah, that was during October. I don't know if it extends past October.
I was going to ask if the patients in Kolebu know that.
Well, I don't know if I was supposed to talk about that, but that I thought was very nice about for QIC to think about that, to do it. And I constantly harass them in October to give me their runabout at East Legon, to pink up the runabout so that the awareness can be created. Everyone passing by could at least be made aware of breast cancer. So I hope that maybe next year we could have. Maybe next year we could have the next year if we can have the runabouts, the QIC runabouts on the Boundary Road.
You have so many witnesses.
Yes. So thank you very much.
Right, since we have some time, Ella, there was a question earlier about you sharing some of the stories from Kolebu about the whole coping situation.
Right. Have you?
Okay, yeah.
So my focus at the moment is the whole socio-cultural advocacy of self during the whole diagnosis treatment journey. For example, I had the experience with the cancer board. And so the question is, what questions to ask? How do you advocate for self? How do you make the decision to take this path or not? At what point do you seek a second or even third opinion? And these are very important things that I think we need to tell people about so that it's an integral part of their journey.
Fantastic question. So, Ella, maybe start with a definition of what a cancer board is for those who don't necessarily know.
So a cancer board is a multidisciplinary team with members from different specialties that sit down to talk about a patient's cancer diagnosis and then the way forward, right? So we do have your oncologist on the team, your surgeon, your radio-oncologist, your urologist, and ideally a psychologist and even patient advocates on the board, such that when you're discussing, someone is also there to advocate for the patient.
In the case that I was involved with, I was more of a caregiver, and the patient was there, and so we were all having the conversation and discussion
Right.
what to do next, and that was really great. Yeah. And this is still Kolebu.
Yeah, so that's the standard of care everywhere across Ghana now, where you sit with the tumor board to discuss like the next steps, your journey, and what each specialty brings to the table and what to do next.
But does it happen for every cancer patient?
It's quite new, isn't it, for most in Kolebu? How new is it with the tumor board, people sitting together, the round table?
I think it's been going on for quite a while. And you know, we have different cancer boards depending on the cancer you have. So we have new ones, but we have some like the breast cancer that has been going on for over 5 years, even 10 years.
Okay.
I dare say. So.
All right. Yes, because in Cape Coast, it's for every cancer. Like, there's a board there for everyone. So it's not just limited to breast cancer. I was saying that because you asked if it was for every cancer that happens.
No, for everyone.
Everyone, yeah, it's for everyone. Yes.
So I think you must ask
patient.
for it. The
No, you don't have to ask for it.
Yeah.
You don't ask for it. It's standard of care. Sorry? Most people do. Most people do. Because before your treatment, before you even start treatment, you are sat down. Even if you don't have everybody, the person who talks to you about your treatment is one that has probably discussed with the board and then is facing you. So every single patient goes through the tumor board. In maybe sometimes if it's a bit complicated, then you bring everybody, because sometimes one person doesn't want to face the patient, and so you need everybody to come by. But every single patient goes through the cancer board.
And I think it's also important to consider that there's the logistical reality of trying to bring all the specialists to meet every single patient, but also what it will mean to a patient, because a patient might think, why do I need 6, 7 people? What is the diagnosis I have? How bad is it? But definitely, it always gets discussed. The debate house wants us to know that a QR code is going to be projected. Please scan the code so you can be made aware of future conversations like these ones. Even in those moments when you can't join physically, you will be able to join online. So please, when the QR code is projected, go ahead and scan it. Yeah. So oh, sorry.
So on self-advocacy, I think it's practice now that a lot of people advocate for themselves. The truth is that your physician probably wants the best for you, but as human as we are, there's doubts all the time. And if you don't feel right, or your intuition doesn't tell you that this is okay, it's okay to ask for a second opinion, and you'll be offered a second opinion. We have gone past the days where you ask for a second opinion and you're like, then go away. There are people that come to Kolebu and say they want a second opinion from somewhere else, and we offer it to them, like, go. But we know that you come back to Kolebu because it's there. Well, it's not the alpha and omega, but it's something like that, right? So you should always, if you don't feel right, ask for a second opinion. It's standard of care right now.
Right. And I think that also helps, right? Self-advocacy in terms of agency for the patient. Then in your case, you did quite a bit of self-advocacy, right? You went to your oncologist, you went to your surgeon. Can you tell us a bit what the background of that relationship was before the diagnosis? With your...
Oh yeah, my oncologist is my friend from Wesley Girls. The surgeon is also my friend. Radiologist, my friend from Wesley Girls. Plastic surgeon.
Not from Wesley Boys.
He went to Augustus. Hafi, my friend from Wesley Girls. Yeah, so I knew all of them, but for a lot of them, they were all hopeful that it will not end in breast cancer. So throughout the diagnosis, all the scans and all that, they kept thinking, oh, it could be nothing, be benign and all that. And then, so eventually when we could not deny the final diagnosis, it then just turned to, okay, so what's the plan, right? And then for myself, I think I did so much reading to the point where when I actually started treatment, I was like, enough. But I did so much reading. I was just checking, Google, WebMD, Mayo Clinic. I was on every site. I join every newsletter on breast cancer. I overdose on the treatment plans out there. But what I just wanted to be sure that the plan put together was what was suitable for my type of cancer. So I even shared the plan with another doctor, two other doctors to look at.
Second opinion.
Third,
third
second
opinion.
and third.
That's fine.
Yes, and they both came back and said, yeah, for what you have is the best. So, and then after that, I just stopped. I just could not bear to read anything on breast cancer anymore. To the point where when I was going for my the consultation before breast cancer, I had to now remember to write my questions down, because or else I'll sit down and he should be like, how are things? I'm like, I'm okay. Shall we start? Yeah, so I overdosed, and then I just had enough and stopped. And then now I can't really, I have had enough of cancer talk.
Well, you haven't. You're here today, so
Sorry?
don't stop.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So one of the things I like to perhaps know is how was it for you digesting the information on websites like WebMD? It's a bit specialized, right?
I think they try to keep things fairly readable for the layperson. And then okay, I think I'm quite a smart girl, so I know when something is trash.
She's advocating for herself. She's a smart girl.
Yeah. And then I know I have to look out for when it's being reviewed by a medical person, so it's not any content that you consume. You have to check that it's being reviewed by a medical person, and the date on it. Is it recent research and whatnot? Yeah.
You're a certified smart girl. You've
Then
said
I went to
everything.
Wesley Girls.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's very important, right? Because there's so much information out there, right?
Absolutely.
You can find websites that will tell you that for this cancer or this condition, you need to go and grind ginger and then, turn around it 5 times or whatnot.
And run around a pot.
And
Exactly.
I also used to be that person who was always scared of Kolebu nurses, but I had to get over that fear. When they're with me, I ask them all the questions. I think they even had a WhatsApp page where you could ask questions. So I'm that person who, if I find a rash, I'm asking them. I'm sending the photo of the rash. Yeah. If I feel this small thing, I'm asking them. You have to, because they see so many people, you have to excuse them for not being extra attentive.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. So you need to look out for yourself and then ask questions. Anything you're unsure of, just make sure you're reaching out to somebody for clarification.
Right.
Because some people will just stay home. Because I pay for treatment for people and they tell me, oh, and today I've got this pain here. I'm like, have you told your nurse, your doctor?
Yeah.
No, they haven't. But you're telling me, I'm not a medical person. You're home, you're suffering. You've not told anybody what you're feeling. Even though they'll tell you it's because of the chemo. Be double sure.
Yeah.
All right, so sorry for interrupting that brilliant conversation. The Wi-Fi is Starlink, there's no password. So just in case you're trying to join and you're having a hard time, it's Starlink, no password. The QR code is up, so you can scan it to join the debate house. Ella, with your practice with children, educating the children takes a different form, right? You've worked on a few things. Can you share those with us a little bit? How you help children understand their condition and advocate for themselves?
You're putting me on the spot. I didn't expect this. Sorry. I working with children, of course, it takes a different dimension. And as I mentioned, we always don't have the resources with regards to psych care. Even for adults, talk less children who are in Ghana an afterthought. I did all my residency and fellowship in Kolebu, so I'm a Kolebu baby. And during that time, we had just one play therapist for all the children who came. And I mean, the play therapist is a very new position. I think she's been there for just 4 years. And so prior to that, children would come, do not understand their diagnosis. You just come, you need an IV line, you get it, you get the chemo. And one day I sat with some children and I was asking them, what do you think is wrong with you? And I don't know, I have to come for chemo. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. We have learned that when people understand what is wrong with them, they are able to pull through. And so one of the things that I came up with my colleague was to create children's books that help children cope. So I have My Hair, My Pride, which is a little girl called Amma who's going through chemotherapy and she's lost her hair, and it grows back at the end of the treatment. So then the children read it and understand that this is just a phase. I'm going to lose my hair, but it's going to come back. Then there's My Scar, which is for children who are going for surgery. There's I Am Not Alone, which talks about the loneliness that happens in the hospital and what you could do to cope with it. There's Awo's Brave Journey, which is like my favorite. Awo is this girl who is very tough going through chemo. So it shows all the different forms of chemos that she receives, all the side effects and all the things that we do to alleviate those side effects. And these books have been like 4 years in the making. And the first set of books did so well for the children in Ghana that we had to translate it to French, to send to Cameroon, Chichewa for Malawi, Bangladesh, and then Venezuela.
Right. I'm sorry I put you on the spot, but I thought that is something that can be hopefully expanded to breast cancer women, not just the children, because I don't see why we couldn't have a series or a movie and one of the main characters is someone that's going through, who has a diagnosis of breast cancer with other things happening, again, to enlighten, to share information like what everyone has learned here about the lack of radiotherapy, the brilliant work from the nurses and doctors from Kolibu and the rest, because it clearly seems the issue is storytelling, right? We're fortunate that Ifya and Dede were sharing their stories today. But unfortunately, a lot of people wouldn't have heard that story, and they might not feel like, for example, going to Kolibu to get care or donating at Kolibu for people. So the success of the storybooks definitely shows that that's a way to go. And on the matter of helping, you mentioned your NGO earlier that you've started. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so 2 years ago. Okay, so we do a lot of awareness. We keep talking about how people should, do the screening, do the scans, so they can find it early and have better outcomes. But that wouldn't stop people from getting it. We just want them to find it early and have a better outcome. But a lot of the time, when they find out they've got breast cancer, they really cannot afford the care. We've spoken about that. So 2 years ago, we organized. When I say we, my friends and I, we organized a ride and walk event on Legon campus and raise money purely for paying for treatment of breast cancer for needy patients. So that was 2 years ago. It's registered and I've supported 6 women since then. The last one was with the help of QIC. Thank you very much. Yeah. But on top of that, I want to just touch on the insurance. Right, so when I got my diagnosis, we've spoken about the cost of treatments and all that. So when I got my diagnosis, I found out purely by accident that the critical illness part of my insurance entitled me to a lump sum payment for cancer. And my friend reminded me of that. So that was super helpful. I pay less than 200 a month, but I got over 70K from that payout. And on top of that, every year I get free screening from the insurance policy. So it's something that people should take up more often. At the moment, I get mammogram screening as well as part of the screening from the policy. I don't know, maybe my friend from Prudential can speak on whether that is standard. Sorry. Yes. What? They don't do life?
Doesn't do health.
Okay. You don't do life? No, QLAC. Okay. Okay, but we're talking about life and death situation, so he's okay for us to discuss. Yeah. Thank you. No, so the free screening, the mammogram, is it for every woman or is it linked to age or history? Because I only saw it in my letter to this year.
It's an additional benefit, so it's for every policy holder.
You
Okay.
get to undergo a free annual medical. And as part of that, we offer the mammograms as well.
Okay. All right.
Sorry?
I think the
free
question is
screening
best
or the
for
mammogram being part of it? The medical.
It depends on the policy that you have. No, not every policy.
Yes. Hey. Please talk to Kopi later.
We can have conversations after.
Okay.
yeah. I think on this matter, one of the things we're learning here is that perhaps we have access to certain resources that we're not making the most of, right? So quite a few of us here have access to either medical or life insurance that offers benefits that can help uh, detect or prevent certain conditions, including cancer. So we should probably take a look at our policies and see whether the fine print details those things and take advantage of them. Right. Okay. I wanted to. I think there was a question about when you said when does this start? I was thinking about when should women perhaps think about mammogram. So a resident radiologist maybe can educate us on the ages and times and the protocols, what you can expect for the mammogram.
So generally, in different countries, there are actually different protocols. But what we use in Ghana is the 40-year landmark. So when you're having your big 40-year birthday, you should remember it's the time to start doing your mammograms. Well, Ella is saying it's painful.
Yeah.
It's done as a screening tool. Usually, if you don't have any lump or swelling, it's considered a screening tool. It's assumed that even if you have cancer, it's so tiny that your chances of cure are, close to 100%. So that is when we want to catch the cancer before it actually, presents itself, makes itself visible. And so before 40 years, because the majority of cancers are believed to be after 40, that's also one of the reasons why we do them before 40. But, our dynamics are quite different, and we actually seen many people who have cancers earlier. And for some of those people, they have a family history of breast cancer. So maybe they have a first-degree relative, like their mother or sister. And so in those category of people, talked about that earlier, depending on the age at which that person was diagnosed. For example, if maybe your first-degree relative was diagnosed at age 35, this is an age before the prescribed 40 years. It means your mammogram screening should start 10 years before that age 35. So it means we would have to start screening you way earlier. And mammogram has the advantage of picking up really tiny cells, what we call calcifications, and you may not see them on an ultrasound. So it's also very, very important that, we do our mammograms and we repeat them from, year to year, because in between your mammogram, some people have developed breast cancers. So you can have interval breast cancers. So before then, we usually will do ultrasounds for women who need an imaging. All right. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to speak to what you were just saying about the mammogram. I'm here. About the mammogram, because I actually have a friend in the UK. She did the mammogram. They didn't see anything. She did the ultrasound. That's when they caught it. So now she was saying that in the UK, they're suggesting you do the mammogram, then do the ultrasound now, because one or the other can catch it.
All right. So that's an interesting question. So when you do a mammogram, the appearance of the mammogram is categorized into different forms. The pattern that your breast density would have is dependent on a number of factors. Things like, have you breastfed? Do you have babies? And so we actually have 4 different categories. One that is called entirely fatty, and it's so easy to look through and make sure there's nothing hiding. And that's the, one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum, everything looks like a white cloud. So if there is breast cancer in such a person, if you use the mammogram by itself, you would miss it. So for people who have that kind of breast density, it is empirical that they have an additional complementary study. So you don't just end there for such a person. So in America, it's actually indicated. You could be sued if you don't indicate that, you need to have further imaging. And for us at Kolebu, we always will scan you. It's actually part of the package. If you have such a density, we would scan. And so because of that, people tend to feel like, okay, then the mammogram is not needed because you'll still do an ultrasound anyway. But then there's those tiny calcifications that you would only see on mammogram. So, you you always have to make sure you have the right tool used. Okay. Hope that answers.
Yes,
All
it
right.
does.
All right, so Ella, I think. Oh,
Thank you very much. So this is just a recommendation to the QIC. This person who sends messages out. I always get it when I have to renew my policy. So if QIC, in addition to the message that is sent out, as they have every policyholder's birthday, so if they can, 40 plus on your birthday, just send a message out. That is something that will definitely go a long way to create awareness, and will get people out of the door to do that, to do the screening.
that's a great suggestion. And in fact, although we're speaking only about breast cancer, there are other types of conditions, and that's where you need to speak with your medical provider, because besides breast cancer, you have to watch out for other things. And when there are few mentions of women in their 30s with breast cancers, it's a reality. So please do not think of it only as a 40-plus condition. Unfortunately, I think they will tell you that you go through Kolebu's wards and you find, a few 20s and 30-something women with breast cancer. So that, again, as we're talking about advocacy, it might not always be advocating for yourself. It might also be advocating for someone close to you, and just saying, hey, it looks like what you're saying might be this, so let's look into it. So, Ella, talking about the differences in protocols, that again is based usually on research. So if you're thinking the various types of breast tissue, that then determine how we're going to handle things. Again, it gets us back to why we need to invest in research, right? So through your work with Yemachi Biotech, you conduct some research on the genomics of cancers in Ghana. So tell us a little bit about that, and then Taka.
So I work with, I did mention at the beginning that I'm a clinician scientist, and I do work with a Ghanaian-founded biotech company, Yemachi Biotech. It sounds like Japanese, but Yemachi, that's it, really. And our goal is to diversify the pool of the genes, like the knowledge of the genes that exist in globally. As I mentioned, only about 2% of the gene pool globally that is known is black. And the goal is to make sure that that number increases so that there's a fair share amongst everybody. And as I mentioned, if we are able to unlock the gene pool, we will be able to understand cancers, because really cancer is a genetic disease at the end of the day. So that's the main work that we do there. And currently we are working on what we are calling the African Cancer Atlas, where we are partnering with pharma to do genetic testing on women with breast cancer across the African continent. We're currently doing some work in Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire. Currently have studies that are open, and we are recruiting women who have been newly diagnosed with breast cancer, getting a tissue from them and getting blood to, so there's two types of genetic mutations that happen when you have breast cancer. There's one that's called the somatic, which is in the cancer itself, right? And then there's the germline, which is from you. So as I mentioned, like BRCA is called a founder mutation because it was found in Jews. For them, the goal is to hope to discover a gene that sort of explains the risk that Black women have to cancers. We are currently looking at recruiting over 2,500 women. We started a few months ago, and we've been able to hit a quarter of that number. So that's the work that we do at Yemachi.
Thanks. And in Dede's case, she had a triple positive breast cancer. So maybe briefly describe what that means and what your work on the African genome would mean for those kinds of breast cancers or the different types.
Okay. So you've probably heard the word thrown out around a bit. So there's triple negative, there's triple positive. There are other ways to classify it, but this is the simple way. So when you are diagnosed of, or when someone is diagnosed of breast cancer, the first thing, one of the first things that is done is to do what we call molecular studies. And with that, we look for markers on the breast, on the cancer, if there are things that you can target. She did mention that she received targeted treatment. So with triple positive, it has the three markers that we commonly look for on the cancer, which is estrogen receptor, progesterone receptor, and then what we call HER2. So HER2 was actually discovered in in the 2000s, early 2000s. It was one of the landmark discoveries in breast cancer treatment because it was noticed that it is a target that a drug could be given to sort of reduce the cancer. So we look for these three markers on the cancer cell. And depending on, if you don't have the markers, you're triple negative. Now, triple positive, because it has targets that you can act on, they are considered kinder because there are drugs that are available to target them. However, triple negative breast cancer is more aggressive, and you have to use chemo. There's no target, so it's like getting the whole myriad of chemotherapy. And in the world, it's noticed that Black women have up to 18% of Black women have triple negative, which is the more aggressive.
And it hits the younger ladies as well?
Yes, absolutely. So younger women and Black women have triple negative breast cancer, which is harder to treat, unfortunately.
All right. Okay, please go ahead.
When you say younger women are more in the population of those with triple negative, is this to say that it can change as they grow older?
No.
Okay.
No. We have different age ranges of women who have triple negative, but it is commoner in the younger population.
Okay, thanks. At this juncture, I think we'll take a word from the debate club.
The debate house.
The debate house, sorry.
Good evening once again. Before I say anything, there's just one issue I want to maybe ask. So recently, a group of men in their 50s who have decided that they would sponsor some underprivileged women to do scans and whatnot. But the problem is, They just ask your age and they say you don't need mammogram, go away. But listening to her, they should ask more questions. Do you have family history? Do you have this? Do you have that? And unfortunately, about 60% were sent home because they are in their 30s, they are in their 20s. But some of these people would have family history. And in actual fact, one of them's mother had passed at the age of 26 with breast cancer. Right, so I think for the physicians and the doctors and whatnot, you should also ask more questions. It's not too much work, 5 minutes to ask more questions. Sometimes people don't know, but you should ask more questions, and most likely you would save a life. So that's my first point. My second point is welcome to Debate House. This is our first event, so forgive us if things didn't go right. For my very good friend, Evelyn, that most of you don't know, she's here. She doesn't like her name, Evelyn, but...
Hi, Francis.
Evelyn, thank you very much for accepting to do this. I think that it's been very insightful, very eye-opening, and more importantly, let me commend you for your courage, for the courage you've shown, not only today, but throughout this journey. I remember the first day you called me to tell me your diagnosis, and I was very sad.
Did I call you to tell you?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you remember what you said? And look, you've shown a lot of courage, and thank you very much. For Amakun Ella's daughter, Ella didn't say it. Ella's daughter has gone through the process, and Ella's daughter is medical school now.
Wow.
She is beautiful. so and Ella's daughter is in medical school now, and so
you don't look a day over 40.
it's okay. It's okay.